The basketball gods just served up the coldest dish of karma the WNBA has ever seen, and Bria Hartley is the one choking on it right now. Just days after Sophie Cunningham went down with a torn MCL in what many are calling the dirtiest play of the season, Hartley herself is now out for the entire year with her own devastating injury. But here's where this story takes a sinister turn that nobody's talking about. New footage has surfaced showing Hartley actually smirking while Sophie writhed in pain on the court. And what happened next has fans convinced this wasn't just karma, it was divine intervention. Before we dive into this insane twist of fate, if you support Sophie Cunningham and want to see justice in the WNBA, smash that like button right now and let me know in the comments if you think Hartley got what she deserved. The collision that started this whole controversy happened during a Connecticut Sun game that should have been routine. Sophie Cunningham was making a standard defensive play when Hartley came crashing in with what looked like unnecessary force. The impact sent Sophie straight to the floor, and she immediately grabbed her knee in agony. This wasn't your typical hard foul where a player gets up, shakes it off, and keeps playing. Sophie couldn't even attempt to stand. The trainers rushed over, her teammates formed a protective circle around her, and the entire arena went silent. You could see it in her face. This was serious. What made this infinitely worse was what cameras captured next. While Sophie was still down on the hardwood, clutching her knee and fighting back tears, Bria Hartley was caught on camera with an unmistakable smirk across her face. Not a grimace of concern, not a look of worry for a fellow player, but an actual smile. The image went viral within minutes, and suddenly, this wasn't just about a hard play gone wrong. This was about a player who appeared to be enjoying another athlete's pain, but that wasn't the whole story. This incident with Sophie was actually the latest in a disturbing pattern of aggressive plays from Hartley this season. Just weeks earlier, she had grabbed Angel Reese's hair during a rebound battle, yanking her braids so hard that even the commentators couldn't ignore it. Then there was the shove on Rebecca Allen that had fans calling for suspensions. Each incident on its own might have been dismissed as playing hard, but when you stack them all together, a clear picture emerges of a player who crosses the line repeatedly. The reaction from Sophie's family was immediate and brutal. Her sister Lindsay took to social media with a scathing post that read, "Maybe the WNBA should focus less on fining players for commenting on poor officiating and more on hiring officials capable of calling a consistent game and protecting athletes." Her mother Paula went even further, directly calling out Hartley as a dirty player who had been targeting opponents all season. When you have family members this fired up, you know something serious went down. What happened next would shock everyone in the basketball world. Just 72 hours after the Sophie Cunningham incident, Connecticut Sun released a statement that sent shockwaves through the league. Bria Hartley would miss the remainder of the season due to a severe knee injury of her own. The timing was so perfect, so poetic, that fans immediately started calling it instant karma. The same player who had been accused of intentionally injuring Sophie was now facing the exact same fate. But here's where things get really interesting. Sources close to the Connecticut Sun revealed that Hartley's injury actually occurred during a completely routine practice drill. No contact, no collision, just a simple cutting movement that resulted in her knee giving out. Medical staff reported hearing a pop that could be heard across the gym. The diagnosis came back as a torn ACL, the same type of season-ending injury that has derailed so many careers. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. A player known for her overly physical style, someone who had been accused of dirty plays all season, was taken down by her own body during the safest possible basketball situation. Social media absolutely exploded when the news broke. Fever fans who had been calling for Hartley's suspension were now witnessing something even more dramatic than any league punishment. One viral tweet read, "The basketball gods don't miss. Hartley smiled while Sophie was hurt. Now she's watching the rest of the season from her couch." Another fan posted, "Death, taxes, and Bria Hartley being at the scene of the crime, except this time the crime scene was her own knee." The controversy deepened when internet detectives discovered something even more damning. Hartley had actually liked an Instagram post that called her the definition of consistency, alongside photos of her various controversial plays throughout the season. This wasn't someone who was remorseful about hurting opponents. This was someone who seemed to embrace her reputation as the league's enforcer. The post included images of her hair pull on Angel Reese, her collision with Rebecca Allen, and of course, the Sophie Cunningham incident. By liking this post, Hartley essentially confirmed what everyone already suspected. She knew exactly what she was doing out there. What really set the situation apart from typical basketball drama was the pattern of officiating failures that allowed it to happen. The WNBA had been under fire all season for inconsistent refereeing, with players getting technical fouls for the slightest complaints, while dangerous plays went unpunished. Sophie herself had been fined $10,000 earlier in the season just for suggesting the refs needed to do better. Meanwhile, Hartley faced zero consequences for multiple incidents that left opponents injured. This double standard had fans questioning whether the league actually cared about player safety or just about maintaining control. The medical reports on Sophie's injury painted a grim picture. A torn MCL typically means 6 to 8 weeks of recovery minimum, potentially ending her season depending on the severity. For a player like Sophie, who relies on her athleticism and cutting ability, this type of injury can have lasting effects even after returning. Her trainer revealed that Sophie had been having the best season of her career before this happened, averaging career highs in multiple categories. All of that momentum gone because of one reckless play. But that's when the story took another unexpected turn. Video analysis by basketball experts started raising questions about whether Hartley's play was even legal to begin with. Frame-by-frame breakdowns showed Hartley lowering her shoulder and extending her leg in a way that created maximum contact with Sophie's knee. Former WNBA players chimed in, with one saying, "I've played 15 years of professional basketball, and that's not a basketball play. That's someone trying to hurt somebody." The Connecticut Sun's response to the whole situation was telling. Instead of defending their player or addressing the controversy, they simply announced Hartley's injury and went silent. No statement about the Sophie incident, no acknowledgement of the pattern of aggressive plays, just radio silence. This left fans to draw their own conclusions, and most of them weren't favorable to Hartley or the organization. What makes this karma even sweeter for Fever fans is the timing. The Indiana Fever had been on a hot streak with Caitlin Clark leading the charge and Sophie playing a crucial supporting role. Hartley's Sun, on the other hand, were struggling to maintain their playoff position. Now without Hartley, their season looks even more uncertain. It's almost like the universe decided to balance the scales in the most dramatic way possible. The league's response, or lack thereof, has been equally controversial. Despite overwhelming evidence and fan outrage, the WNBA never issued any statement about the Hartley-Sophie collision. No fine, no suspension, no acknowledgement that anything inappropriate had occurred. This silence spoke volumes to fans who felt the league was more interested in protecting its image than its players. Now with Hartley injured, the league conveniently doesn't have to make any tough decisions about punishment. Former players have been surprisingly vocal about this situation. Diana Taurasi, never one to hold back her opinions, said on a podcast, "When you play dirty, eventually it catches up to you. The game has a way of policing itself." Sue Bird added her thoughts during a broadcast, noting that players who consistently cross the line often find themselves on the wrong end of karma. These weren't direct callouts of Hartley, but everyone knew exactly who they were talking about. The psychological aspect of this whole saga is fascinating. Sports psychologists have noted that players who engage in overly aggressive behavior often do so from a place of frustration or insecurity about their own game. Hartley had been struggling with her shooting percentage all season, barely cracking 30% from three-point range. Some analysts suggested her physical play was compensating for her offensive struggles, trying to impact the game through intimidation rather than skill. Meanwhile, Sophie Cunningham has handled the situation with incredible class. Despite having every reason to blast Hartley publicly, she simply posted, "Focusing on my recovery and coming back stronger. Thanks for all the support." Her teammates, however, weren't as diplomatic. Kelsey Mitchell posted a cryptic message about karma being undefeated, while Aaliyah Boston shared prayer hands emojis under every post about Hartley's injury. The financial implications of these injuries are significant too. Sophie was in line for a major contract extension, having proven herself as a valuable 3 and D player. This injury could cost her millions in future earnings. Hartley, on the other hand, was already on a veteran minimum deal, and this injury at her age could effectively end her WNBA career. The Connecticut Sun now have dead money on their books and a massive hole in their rotation. What's really interesting is how this situation has united different WNBA fan bases. Usually Fever fans and Mercury fans don't agree on much, but they've come together in their satisfaction over Hartley's karma. Even Liberty fans, who typically support Connecticut's division rival, have been posting celebrations about this turn of events. When you manage to unite opposing fan bases against you, you know you've crossed a line. The medical staff treating both players have noted an ironic similarity in their injuries. Both suffered their tears during lateral movement, both heard the distinctive pop, and both face similar recovery timelines. It's almost like the universe wanted to make the karma as perfect as possible. One doctor who specializes in sports injuries commented anonymously that the way Hartley fell during her injury was remarkably similar to how Sophie went down just without any contact. This whole situation has reignited the debate about enforcer culture in women's basketball. Unlike the NBA, where flagrant fouls result in immediate ejections and suspensions, the WNBA has been surprisingly tolerant of physical play that crosses into dangerous territory. Some argue this is because the league wants to maintain a tough image, but others say it's simply negligence that puts players at risk. The statistical impact of losing both players is significant for their respective teams. Sophie was averaging 11 points and 4 rebounds while shooting 40% from 3. Her defensive rating was among the best for guards in the league. Hartley, despite her struggles shooting, was still contributing 8 points and 5 assists per game. Both teams now have to adjust their rotations and game plans for the crucial stretch run of the season. Social media investigators have uncovered even more damaging evidence about Hartley's history. Videos from her overseas playing days show similar patterns of aggressive behavior, including an incident in Turkey where she was ejected for throwing an elbow at an opponent's face. There's also footage from her college days at UConn showing confrontations with opposing players. This wasn't someone who suddenly became aggressive in the WNBA. This was a career-long pattern. The conversation has now shifted to what the WNBA needs to do moving forward to prevent these situations. Fans are calling for stricter enforcement of flagrant foul rules, mandatory suspensions for plays that result in injuries, and better protection for star players. The league's silence on this issue is becoming increasingly untenable as more players speak out about feeling unsafe on the court. What nobody's talking about is the potential legal ramifications. If Sophie's camp can prove intent, which that smirking photo certainly suggests, there could be grounds for a civil lawsuit. Professional athletes have successfully sued for career-impacting injuries caused by reckless play in other sports. While it's unlikely Sophie would go this route, the possibility adds another layer to this already complex situation. The karma couldn't have been more perfect if it was scripted. Hartley went from smirking over an opponent's injury to crying over her own in less than a week. She went from being on the court causing havoc to watching from home as her team struggles without her. Most importantly, she went from being the predator to being completely irrelevant to the rest of the season's narrative. This story serves as a powerful reminder that what goes around really does come around. Hartley thought she could play dirty and face no consequences, but the basketball gods had other plans. Sophie will recover and return to the court where she belongs, while Hartley's reputation and possibly her career are in ruins. Sometimes justice doesn't come from the league office or the referees. Sometimes it comes from the universe itself. If you think Bria Hartley got exactly what she deserved, hit that subscribe button right now and drop a comment letting me know if you believe in basketball karma. This story is far from over, and you won't want to miss what happens when Sophie returns to face Connecticut next season.